When a new Pokemon game releases, it brings with it a promise of fresh and exciting options. Never before seen Pokemon, abilities, moves, and game-defining mechanics to play around with. An all-new world of possibilities. But sometimes new Pokemon games will change things, redesigning moves from previous games that once worked completely differently, effectively erasing the old version of the move from existence. Pokemon can be changed too, losing abilities they once had or even having their type change. These Pokemon no longer exist in their original form. And in more extreme cases, moves will just be outright removed from the game, never to be used again in future installments. Some of these removed moves are pretty inconsequential and were rarely used competitively, but some were massively impactful and completely changed the way the game was played forever. Let's take a look at some significant examples of removed and forgotten moves in competitive Pokemon. In other news, it appears that Magcargo was victorious in the Horse Council election, with a landslide 99.9% majority vote. His opposition, Horsea, only received a single vote. What will his first course of action be upon his return to power? Only subscribing to the channel can reveal the answer. Thank you. One of my favorite examples of a forgotten Pokemon move that not a lot of people talk about is Snatch. This move was removed in the Generation 8 games, no longer able to be used in battle. And Snatch has a pretty interesting effect. Snatch is a move that allows you to steal the opponent's move and use it for yourself. When you do this, you also deny them from using the move at all, unlike Copycat, which is similar. Copycat will copy the last move used, but it won't deny the enemy from taking their turn. Snatch actually takes their move that they're currently using and it's used by you instead. This move has really interesting disruptive application as a result. But of course there's restrictions on what moves can and cannot be snatched. If you could snatch absolutely any move, this would be broken because the enemy wouldn't be able to do anything about it. There is a set list of moves that can be snatched, and usually these are boosting moves, healing moves, or options like substitute. Notably, you cannot snatch status moves like Toxic or Thunder Wave, and you cannot snatch entry hazards like Spikes or Stealth Rock. It's pretty rare to actually see Snatch in competitive games because of the limited use cases for it, but sometimes it does come up in interesting scenarios. One Pokemon that can make use of Snatch in competitive situations is Blissey back in Generation 3. Blissey is a central Pokemon in this format that a lot of teams will try to target, apply pressure to, lure in, and just have a real strong game plan against. But Snatch can sometimes be used to counteract specific anti-Blissey strategies. One of the strongest ways to defeat Blissey is with Substitute and Calm Mind. Certain Pokemon have enough of a base HP stat to be able to make substitutes that have more than 100 HP. This is significant because the move Seismic Toss deals exactly 100 damage. So Substitute effectively gives you a free turn against Blissey if it has enough health, unable to be broken by a single Seismic Toss. And Pokemon like Jirachi and Suicune can take advantage of this, using Substitute to gain free turns, spam Calm Mind to the extent that they can break through Blissey and beat it 1v1 this way. But with Snatch, you can not only steal their Substitute, instead substituting yourself, giving you that massive safety net, but you can also prevent them from using Calm Mind. If they try to use Calm Mind, it will get snatched and you will use it instead, so you're powering yourself up. This really destroys sub-Calm Mind Jirachi sets, and it's effective against many kinds of Suicune sets. Not only those that are using the sub-Calm Mind strategy, but also Calm Mind Rest Suicune. Snatch is able to steal Rest, and this can sometimes create situations where the enemy Suicune will die to Toxic, unable to rest. This doesn't always work though, because if Blissey uses Rest, it will put itself to sleep and it can't keep using Snatch. But if you hit them with the surprise Snatch on the right turn, you can catch a Suicune off guard and eliminate them sometimes. Blissey can also destroy Melodic with Snatch. You can poison them, and they really rely on using Refresh to clear poison. But Snatch steals Refresh, basically denying them from doing this. You also steal Recover, leaving them pretty helpless if they're poisoned against you. Another Pokemon that sometimes uses Snatch is Cofagrigus in Generation 6. Cofagrigus is quite a good Pokemon in this metagame thanks to its great defenses, Mono Ghost typing, which can be used to block rapid Rapid Spin, and the ability Mummy, which will remove key abilities from enemies like Mega, Medicham, and Lopunny. Snatch is a useful option because it's able to deny the enemy from healing. This can turn Cofagrigus into a little bit of a stall breaker. This Pokemon has access to Toxic Spikes, which applies real pressure to certain teams. An enemy like Chansey will be really threatened by the combination of Toxic Spikes and Snatch. Snatch will deny them from being able to heal, and in fact, will steal their healing for your benefit. And Snatch can also be used to steal boosting moves, preventing the enemy from breaking through this defensive Pokemon. Generation 8 is the generation that deleted a lot of moves from the game, and it's pretty unfortunate. I think Snatch is a fantastic move design, and a great tool to have to take advantage of specific niche situations. It's not a very relevant move, but it's the kind of move that comes up when you least expect it, and honestly just has a fun effect that is flavorful and creates interesting dynamics in my opinion. I'm not sure why they got rid of this one. It would honestly be nice to have in Gen 9 OU for certain situations, but unfortunately they did, and Snatch is now a move lost to time. Another move that was removed from the game in Generation 8 was Assist, and this one was probably deserved. This move is a crazy one that allowed for some seriously game-breaking stuff to be possible. Assist has an effect that sounds simple enough. When used, it will then pick a random move among your party members and use that. Similar to Snatch, there is a set list of moves that can and can't be called from Assist. You could build your team in such a way that Assist would call the specific move that you want or have a very high chance to. And one of the most broken examples of this was a strategy involving Liepard. Liepard has access to Assist, and it has the ability Prankster, which grants priority to non-attacking moves. So Liepard can use Assist with priority and call the move Roar. Roar is a move that forces the enemy to switch out, but it has negative priority by design, so that it always moves last in the priority bracket. It would be broken if you could force your opponent to switch and act first, because this could allow you to rack up hazard damage infinitely. But Liepard, thanks to this Assist interaction, is able to basically use a Roar, not only bypassing the negative priority, but gaining priority on Roar. So this priority boosted Roar, with hazards on the enemy field, could just repeatedly force the enemy to switch and slowly faint to the repeated hazard damage. Very fun stuff. This move getting removed from the game was probably to avoid any such shenanigans occurring in the future, which I support, actually. You could also use Assist alongside Dive to create this weird interaction where the first hit of Dive makes you invincible, and then the second hit also makes you invincible if you move second, which kind of broke the game as well. And I, for one, am glad that this is no longer something we have to deal with. The most famous removed move in Pokemon is probably Pursuit. Pursuit was a central move in competitive singles ever since it was released, and the removal of it was a massive deal. Pursuit is a 40 base power dark type physical attack. However, if the enemy Pokemon is switching out on the turn that it is used, it will double in power and actually attack them as they're switching out. This means Pursuit can be used to trap specific targets, preventing them from switching out to evade harm. In particular, Pursuit is very threatening to enemies weak to dark, obviously. Pursuit was commonly used to eliminate ghost types, which allowed your team to rapid spin safely and remove hazards. Pursuit can be used to trap specific targets like Latios and other offensive psychic and ghost types, and it was a central mechanic that had a significant metagame impact. The most famous Pursuit user in the franchise is, of course, Tyranitar, who used this move in every single generation that it had access to it. The removal of Pursuit is maybe understandable to allow those dark weak Pokemon a bit more breathing room, as their existence is no longer threatened by this trapping option. But I also think it had some negative impact. Trapping is a controversial concept in singles that can be uncompetitive, but this kind of trapping effect I think is a healthy version of it, because it is inherently restricted. It's just a dark type attack. It only affects specific things, and it can also somewhat be played around. Sometimes the ability to eliminate specific targets can create interesting team building, where the game plan becomes centered around eliminating something specific to enable teammates. And just subjectively speaking, I enjoy playing with Pursuit. I think it's a fun move to use that I think made the game a little bit more interesting. I'm not entirely sure why Pursuit was removed, especially because balanced decisions are usually centered around doubles, and Pursuit is not a very commonly used move in doubles. This removal pretty much just affected singles, and if this was an intentional choice for singles balance, it's kind of random and out of nowhere. They don't often do this, and in fact they commonly introduce pretty broken concepts for singles like Shed Tail and Last Respects in Generation 9. Whatever the reasoning for the removal of Pursuit, it is gone forever, and its absence has permanently changed the way the game is played. The most significant move removal, though, that affected both competitive singles and doubles was the removal of Hidden Power. Hidden Power is a weird move that existed since all the way back in Generation 2. It is listed as a normal type attack, but its power and type can vary depending on the IVs of your Pokemon. With the correct IVs, this move can have a maximum power of 70, and it can be any type in the game. This was changed in Generation 6, though, where the maximum power was now 60, and even though the new Fairy type was added to the game, Hidden Power could not be Fairy type. Getting the Hidden Power type you want is a little bit of a unintuitive and time-consuming process where you have to get a specific IV value in each of your stats. But Hidden Power was a very important option that most Pokemon in the game can learn, and it basically allows you to have a weak but universal coverage option on anything. Hidden Power was commonly used just for type coverage to round out your primary attacking type by hitting whatever your weaknesses are. Hidden Power could also be used to target specific enemies in the metagame that have a crippling ×4 weakness to a certain type. Hidden Power Ice was extremely common as it's able to threaten Landorus Therian, Garchomp, Dragonite, and a lot of Pokemon who are ×4 weak to Ice. Hidden Power Fire was similarly popular as it can hit enemies like Scizor and Ferrothorn for ×4 damage. I think that overall Hidden Power had a very positive impact on competitive Pokemon, allowing a universal option that could target specific things. A lot of Hidden Power types were just automatic and obvious, like Hidden Power Ice on a Zapdos or something to round out the coverage, but you could get creative with Hidden Power, using novel types to target specific things, and even weak Pokemon with poor offensive stats could use Hidden Power Ice to hit an enemy Landorus Therian or something. I think it was an important option to have that kept the metagame healthy, allowing you to target popular Pokemon if they're becoming too much of a problem for you. Hidden Power was probably removed because of the annoying process of getting the type you want, but I've always thought that they could have just instead made Hidden Power a streamlined move where you could talk to an NPC in the game and just choose what type you want for it. I don't think that would take anything away, and it would be a cleaner solution to the problem, especially when Hidden Power is only 60 base, which is so weak. It's not as if having universal coverage with such low power is a problem at all, balance-wise. The removal of Hidden Power makes sense when you consider that Gen 9's new terastallization mechanic hinges on the new Terra Blast move, which can transform into any type in a similar way. This is obviously very different because to gain type coverage on Terra Blast, you need to spend your 1 per game Terra. You can't just use universal coverage on anything without a cost. But I think the lack of Hidden Power is really felt, as Pokemon like Gliscor feel really oppressive right now without the option of universal ice coverage to target it. Even access to Hidden Power fighting would be pretty nice in a world dominated by King Gambit. This is the most impactful and, in my opinion, unfortunate move removal in Pokemon history. But what do you think? Do you actually agree with some of these move cuts? And what are some other examples of forgotten and deleted moves in Pokemon that you think are noteworthy? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.